Can you believe that John Brown is going with the 12th pick in the 12th round?
No. I will have him on. I will fight you for him. I'm probably taking the 10th in our league.
You're listening to Let's Talk Fantasy Football, where men of fantasy genius have realized, hey guys, we don't need real football skills to dominate on the fantasy field. Yeah. So slap on your pads and grab your helmet. Shit's about to get real.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Let's Talk Fantasy Football. I am your host tonight. My name is Nick Walsh, and Vinny apparently just hurt his eye. I'm here with my good friend and my co-host, Vinny Gonzalez, who like 2 seconds into this appeared to get something in his eye. What the fuck did you just do?
I just had like the false start of podcast. I just blinked. I blinked the wrong way, and my contact almost popped out, and it really hurt.
Are you okay? Do you want to stop?
No, I feel great. I want to keep going.
To go in the blue medical tent?
No, I'm going to play hurt. I got to get that contract from Shrek, so I'm going to keep, as long as I'm out here, I get paid.
All right, well, there we go. Well, Vinny, it is good to be back here with you. It's been a little while since you and I have rode through the night and recorded one of these. I think a lot of that had to do with general pessimism about the NFL. But as we were just saying, it's here, it's back, it's happening, and we're going to get through it. I was just telling you, Northern California right now is on fire. So, a climate change-induced fire in the middle of a pandemic is basically hell, but hell apparently still has football. So
that's okay with us then.
So I will live through hell, I guess, for some NFL football. And what we're going to do tonight, we're going to we've never really tried this format before, but I feel like if it goes well, I want to do it more often because it's fun, I think.
It's going to be wild. It's just going to be all over the place.
Yeah. So basically, what we are going to do is run through all 32 NFL teams, and we're going to talk about news reports that have come out of training camps, pretty much 1 to 2 of them per team. Some teams, it's like very obvious that we were reaching for even 1. Some teams we got up to 3 just because there's a lot of things going on. But we're going to run through every single team, talk about their training camp news, whether that's coach speak, actual injuries, position battles, whatever the case may be, and talk about the fantasy impact, maybe use those for launching off points for some bigger, overarching types of discussions with the season coming up. So hopefully this will answer, go into some important stuff for you guys. And if you do have questions about what we're talking about or just questions about your draft, because drafts certainly are coming up, please reach out to us. We'll do our best to get back to you as quick as possible and get you the answer that you're looking for, or maybe the answer that you're not looking for, but the answer that we think is right. I don't know.
Which is usually wrong. Yeah,
exactly. It is what it is. But yeah, I have a draft coming up. I was telling you, I've cut down my season-long leagues a lot. I think I'm going to be in 3 this year. Normally I'm in somewhere from like 6 to 10. And I have my first draft coming up this Saturday. And we'll talk about the first round and where you want to be picking through like a little bit later on, probably based on some things. But I have the 12th pick because I won last year, and they do just opposite order of standings. Had to throw in that humble brag. And I am so upset with what is available to me at 12 and then like where I go from there, because I don't want to take the running backs that are left over. But if I don't take one of them, then I either have to go hard 0 RB, or I have to take like some Jamoke running back in the 3rd round who I don't want because he's being drafted too early. It's like a panic time for me. So I got like a week or so to figure it out.
Yeah, 12 is disgusting. I think what we were saying before is the tight end strategy really comes in early there. And I think you can definitely pull it off. It depends like what you want. Like your best option at running back is probably going to be like Joe Mixon, or you take like Tyreek Hill or something like that, and then pair him with Kittle or Kelsey.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, if Miles Sanders falls to me, and we'll talk about Miles Sanders later, but I will probably end up taking Miles Sanders there. Joe Mixon maybe, but yeah, there's a very solid chance that Travis Kelsey comes off the board for me there with the first pick in the 2nd round. If he gets taken earlier, then fuck it. Maybe I'll just take Kittle, or maybe I won't. I don't know. If he gets taken early,
Kittle and Kelsey.
Ooh, just go real nuts. Go try and dominate the tight end market and fuck everyone over.
I mean, as long as she can flex him. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's honestly not the worst idea in the world. All right. Well, that being said, we'll get off of my personal draft issues and we'll jump right into what we came here to talk about. So let's start off. I did these all in alphabetical order. So let's start off with the Arizona Cardinals. So the big news items from training camp here. 1, DeAndre Hopkins is back at practice. He missed a couple practices with a hamstring injury. There was some speculation that he was like holding out or, I guess just sitting out. He's there. He's not holding out, but sitting out because he's unhappy with his contract status. He dismissed those concerns. He said that he is fine. He is still going wide receiver number 5 currently, the 6th pick in the second round. Let's talk about Hopkins, and we've had this discussion. I know that you're still on Hopkins, or at least earlier in the offseason, you were still on Hopkins as a top wide receiver. Has anything changed there for you?
No, not really. I still think, what was our bet? Over 135
for targets?
Or was it 150?
I have no idea. I didn't remember that we made a bet.
But I just think he's going over probably 150. I don't know. I feel like we had an argument about somewhere in that zone, and I just think
that sounds about right, because I was going to come back. I knew that you were going to take this side, and I was going to come back at you with like target share statistics.
Yeah, I just think he's too good not to pepper with targets, and I think that Murray's probably going to lean on him a lot. That's basically, and then when you're drafting towards like the tail end of the first, early second, you're looking at like Tyreek Hill, who's kind of been, is actually injured right now too, and he's kind of had like that weird bug that happens every once in a while. And then Julio Jones is kind of getting older, and just seems like Hopkins has more upside there at the tail end.
Yeah, I mean, you very well could be correct on this. I think with him changing teams, changing quarterbacks, playing on the outside, they're going to be a run-first football team. That's where they had the most success last year. So I'm concerned about his volume, but I mean, looking at like the rest of the wide receivers, I think it's reasonable to have him above Chris Godwin and Kenny Golladay and Mike Evans and, Adam Thielen, Allen Robinson, all these guys. Like it's probably about the right spot for him. I just don't think I'm going to really end up with him very much, if at all, in that spot.
Fair. Yeah.
The other news coming out of Arizona was that Cliff Kingsbury praised Chase Edmonds, calling him, quote, a starting running back in this league. Now, he is not their starting running back. He is, currently projected to back up Kenyon Drake, who is going towards the top of drafts, running back 11, first pick in the second round, a guy who may be on the draft board for me in that with that 12th pick that we talked about. This Chase Edmonds, I've been saying
there's been like a little bit of a drumbeat for him for like the last couple of years, honestly.
And like when he's gotten play, he's been good. People act like Kenyon Drake was like so much better, and Kenyon Drake got in the end zone a fuck ton of times at the end of the year. Like Chase Edmonds was just as productive when he was in there starting in the games that he started. Yeah, I like Chase Edmonds as a late round running back target, going in the 10th round, second pick, running back 47. That is like so cheap for him right now as a guy who, he's a running back on a run first team, and the running back one is Kenyon Drake, who realistically has like 6 games of good production in the NFL. Like, I know that's like cherry picking or whatever, but like, that's not factually incorrect.
Yeah, we're kind of talking shit about Drake, but like when you look at it, the Cardinals brought him in as like an emergency, and they brought him over with some draft capital from the Dolphins. And it's like, if I knew more about contracts, or if I researched enough, I would have more information about this. But isn't he on like, it's like kind of a loan? Like he's
on the transition tag, which I don't entirely understand what that means.
And they can dump him after this season, right? So they kind of owe him nothing after this if they want to cut ties. And I feel like they have more room to grow if they just, bring in Edmonds and see what they got and see if it's like going to work with him.
Yeah. And I sound like I'm trashing Drake a lot, and I think both of us kind of sound like we're trashing Drake.
A little bit.
That's not the case. I think he's good, and he showed that he was good at the end of the year. I got knocked the fuck out of the playoffs because of his 4 touchdowns in that one game. But like, I just don't think the difference between him and Chase Edmonds is 8 rounds.
I mean, it's also one of those situations where if, let's say you're doing 0 RB and then you get to these later rounds, that's going to be one of the best tickets you could take late.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're doing the 0 RB strategy, which again, something that is very in play for me at this 12th pick, what you're looking for is running backs who have some sort of built-in role and then have the upside to have a workhorse role. And that's exactly what Edmonds has. Like, I don't think it's going to be any more than like a 60, maybe a 65-35 type split with Drake and Edmonds to start the year. If you want to say it's going to be 75-25, like, I'm not going to argue like too much with you. Obviously I don't know for sure. But Chase Edmonds is going to get a split in this offense. And he is also has the upside of, if Drake goes down with an injury, all of a sudden he is a locked in RB1. And that's someone that you can get in the 10th round, a guy who has the upside of a standalone flex without injury and the upside of an RB1 with injury. To me,
like a really, really filthy offense.
Yeah, and an offense that loves to run the ball. So let me actually take a look. I know they went through a bunch. I weirdly just had their Pro Football Focus or their Pro Football Reference page up in terms of how many rushing attempts they had last year. So they threw the ball about 550 times, and between Drake, Johnson, and Edmonds, they ran the ball, and those are design runs. Kyler Murray added another 93 rushing attempts. But between Drake, Johnson, and Edmonds, they ran the ball about 270, 280 times with the running back. So this is a team that, wants to get out and run the ball. They were effective when they did that. And, they did that while finishing 5-10-1. So if you think the team can, finish a little bit better, play from the lead a little bit more, you have even more rushing attempts to go around. Plus you have, the pass catching ability of these running backs. I mean, Chase Edmonds in his 2 games started, had 21 targets. They fed around 80 targets to Drake and Johnson throughout the year. So you're looking at like 100 total running back targets on the year, plus about 280 carries between, you would think, Drake and Edmonds. And like I said, if Drake gets hurt, then the injury upside is just gigantic.
Yeah. If anything happens to Drake or he fucks up with like a lot of fumbling issues, what have you, it's a clear role that Edmonds could slip into, which, like we've been saying, he has done and definitely could easily do this year. Absolutely.
Let's move on to Atlanta. Not a ton of news. So we're going to talk the running backs, because I guess like the biggest thing has been Gurley's training camp workload is limited, and he's quote unquote walked with a noticeable limp. Now, he supposedly looked good when he's been on the field, but it's the same thing with Gurley, where he's clearly not the same guy he was a couple years ago in Los Angeles, or with the Rams. I don't remember when they moved to Los Angeles. Whatever. Anyway, he's currently going running back 18, the 6th pick in the 3rd round. You have been a staunch Gurley supporter, and sorry, this is insane. On the side of the Pro Football Reference pages right now, I'm getting targeted ads for Depends. What the fuck was I searching for that got me targeted ads for like adult diapers? This is
just all this fantasy research. Like, he's got to be 65 or older. This is a sad, lonely man.
All right, back to Todd Gurley. Try not to judge me too much on that, I guess. Threw me off my game.
That's okay, man. I can talk about my Todd Gurley love and lust.
Yeah, do you still have that this year?
No, I think I beat it out of myself last year. It was like I've talked about it several times. It's just like it was a roller coaster, because he's so good when he's healthy, but you never know when it's going to be. You also never know when the Rams are going to feed him. Well, I guess now it's going to be the Falcons, who have famously split their like running back carries as it is. So it keeps Gurley limited in a capacity in which you weren't sure when he was on the Rams because you think he's going to get the lion's share. So at least on the Falcons, they like to split it up more like in the 60-40 vein instead of, probably like a 70 or 80% split for the main back on the Rams, let's say. So at least you know what you're getting into in the sense that he's going to have a limited role as is. And now he's got the limp. You already know his pre-existing conditions. He's a risky pick, and you know what you're doing at this point. Like, you can take him, and he can be a fun RB2 for you, or he could totally fuck you over and just kind of sink your lineup every week. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some other beat writer speculation also about the other running backs on the team. So various beat reporters have been hyping up Quadre Ollison as a guy who might get a bigger role. He was kind of used in a goal line role on occasion last year, which is another thing huge for Gurley's upside. If they're going to say we have a goal line back in Quadre Ollison, yeah, he's totally fucked for fantasy upside. And to be clear, that's not something that they have said. But last year they did use Ollison at the goal line sometimes. He is a bigger back. He profiles as a goal line back. And then other beat reporters are hyping up like the direction change ability of Ito Smith and that sort of thing. And we kind of know what Ito Smith is. He wasn't
very, like, you watch him play. Like, every time I saw Ito Smith get a carry, I was like, he doesn't seem like a good running back. It just seemed kind of like a plotter.
But he was also a guy that they were willing to give work to. And to be fair, no one looked good in the Atlanta backfield last year, which again is another question. Like, what has changed really about this team that is going to make their running backs look good this year? No. I don't know. So yeah, I mean, with all of these things together, I'm pretty out on Gurley. It sounds like you are as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'd love to be, but like, God damn, it's just it's a shame really. Cause he was looking like he was going to be like the next AP, and then all of a sudden injuries caught up to him very quickly.
Yep, Todd Gurley, Offensive Player of the Year, is absolutely a thing of the distant past at this point, which is definitely a shame. But injuries happen, and it's the reality of football, as unfortunate as it is. Let's move to Baltimore, where the big story is that Marquise Brown gained 23 pounds this offseason. That puts him at 180 pounds. That is so insane that he was playing in the NFL at 157 pounds last year.
I weigh as much as an NFL football player.
Yeah, and you're rail thin.
I packed on 23 pounds of muscle too. Fuck out of here.
Yeah, when I'm my weight fluctuates somewhere between like 160 and about 195, depending on how much beer I'm drinking at the time. So I know the throes of gaining a ton of weight at one point, though I don't think mine has necessarily been the same as Marquise Brown's. But look, apparently the Ravens sent him a GPS tracker so he can make sure that he was not losing any speed as he put on the extra weight. So I guess they're trying to keep an eye out for that. But does this concern you with Marquise Brown, or is this a good thing? He's currently going 4th pick in the 6th round at wide receiver 27.
I mean, I guess it's a good thing. This is also one of my favorite headlines to see in the offseason. Anyone that packs on pounds, it's always a positive. So it can't be wrong.
Right.
Those are just stats. But I like how it's open-ended too. Like, they gave him the GPS tracker to track his speed, but it didn't say if he maintained the same speed.
No, that was sort of like implied, I guess, but there was no confirmation of him of like Marquise Brown being like, yeah, I'm all good. I'm still just as fast. Like,
exactly.
I'm still going to burn guys down the field. It was just kind of like maybe he just got it and was like, fuck, I'm a lot slower. You know?
Running like an Eddie Lacy 40.
Hopefully not that much. But
yeah, I mean, I think this just, it helps him. I feel like it's going to, like, if there's a deep ball and he doesn't get that much separation, it can help him muscle out, to maybe contest some catches that he wasn't able to last year. Also another year in the league. And then, working with Lamar Jackson, that's always a positive. So yeah, I see this as this is good stuff.
I think the hope is that he avoids some of the injury issues that he had last year, because he was injured on and off for almost the whole year. Now, he's obviously got a ton of upside. He's going around other guys, though. Like, I cannot make a single argument for drafting him above any of the guys who are going above him. I don't think, like Diggs, Sutton, Hilton, McLaurin. Keenan Allen, like absolutely not taking him above those guys. And I think I can make arguments for some of the guys behind him, like A.J. Green, Devontae Parker, Will Fuller, Edelman, and Michael Gallup. So to me, if he stays at that ADP, I'm not going to end up with him despite the weight gain.
Yeah, probably not. He seems to be in like that zone where it's just like a clusterfuck and you never know what it's really going to be come your draft around like the 6th round. So it's going to be tough to make that call. It's always like, it's going to be target share for me. That's probably going to be the biggest one. The blow-up games you're not going to be able to depend on too much, I don't think. Like
that was his entire appeal last year, though, was those blow-up games. And,
But like that means you have to play him like every single week, and you're not going to know when that's going to come.
Yeah, that was the frustrating thing about owning him, I think, was not knowing, was not being sure. That was why he was one of those guys you could convince yourself to put in a DraftKings lineup every single week.
Right.
Like, because it was like, yeah, why the fuck not?
He could get 30, he could get 8.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I don't think I'm going to end up with him a ton, but obviously the upside's there. I think they're going to have to throw the ball a little bit more this year just because, they're not going to be as efficient as they were last year with that offense. So maybe he can command a bigger target share. If you can get him up to like 8 targets a game, he's, clearly going to be a startable wide receiver week in, week out. I think that's the question, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about the competition around him. It's just if they are as effective or committed to running the football, like it's going to be tough just for him to get, a nice chunk of change out of the target share.
Yeah.
Especially when we got the Mark Andrews hype. That's our next piece.
Yeah, I mean, he's the guy who I think is going to lead the team in target share. He's supposedly healthy. He dealt with some injuries last year, and he's supposedly cooking defenders in camp. Take that for what it's worth. But
Everything.
you got to project Mark Andrews for more than his 61% snap share that he had last year. One, because he's healthier. 2, Hayden Hurst is gone. And Mark Andrews, when he was on the field, was running routes, was getting targets. He's clearly the guy that they want to target here. But the thing is, his ADP shows it. He's tight end 3, coming off the board at the 9th pick in the 4th round. So you've got those 2 guys up top, Kelsey and Kittle. And then before we even get to Zach Ertz, who I think it's an understandable drop because a lot of his production has been based on just huge amounts of volume and injuries around him. But Mark Andrews is the next guy there going off the board. Do you see yourself owning Mark Andrews, even with him being back healthy and projecting for maybe more targets than last year?
Not a fucking shot, dude. I like Mark Andrews a lot, and I think he could be, a top 5 tight end, but I'm not going to fucking pull the trigger that early. That's so insane to me, and I'm very much in the camp of, like, I miss Kelsey, I miss Kittle. I'm getting Mike Gesicki, like, in the 12th. I just can't play the middle tight end game.
I think I'm there with you. I'm really not about these middle round tight ends very much. Particularly when you do have the Mike Gesickis and the Noah Fants and
there are so many. Like
we'll talk about a certain Chris Herndon of the Jets later on, but
I'm down with that too. It's just like it's unbelievable. I just can't. I can't be pulling the trigger in the middle rounds.
Yeah, and Andrews is a guy who could elevate himself to that elite level this year. He's a guy that I don't know if I'm entirely as against as it sounds like you are at that ADP.
I just said he could be top 5. It's too much for me.
It does feel like you're drafting him at his ceiling,
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that covers Baltimore, so let's move right on to Buffalo. The training camp hype train has certainly left the station on Zach Moss. Beat reporters are raving about his pass-catching ability and his physicality as a runner. Zach Moss, obviously the rookie running back out of Utah, drafted, 3rd round, something like that? I forget.
You're right. I could check that.
Running back 43 currently, 3rd pick in the 9th round off the board.
Yeah, third rounder.
People are really, hyping him as a guy who can do it all. And Devin Singletary was good last year, but I am intrigued by Zach Moss, and I'm intrigued to the point where I think I'm actively knocking down Singletary who's currently running back 24, 7th pick in the 4th. And I'm actively targeting Zach Moss. We've talked about, and I've said a bunch, like the 6th through the 10th rounds, I think I'm going to be slamming running backs. And Zach Moss is going to be a guy that I am going to end up with a lot of, I think, in that range.
Yeah, that's not really a bad move. I just that's another tough one for me. I really don't know how to judge this. It was tough last year too, with Singletary and Frank Gore trying to figure out like that stupid ass split. And now we have another situation where Zach Moss can come in and take away from Singletary, which was the problem last year too. So I think I'm with you, because it seems like Singletary is overpriced as it is, and like creeping into like that fourth round, a late or early 5th. So I might be getting in on some Zach Moss as well, because it sounds like he has more of a skill tree than Devin Singletary too. So it could be more upside there.
Yeah, he seems very well-rounded. And so my assumption before sort of, this hype going on, I guess, was that Zach Moss would be the early down, like not the early down, but like goal line type back, that kind of thing. Because Frank Gore got a lot of carries inside the 10 last year. He didn't do jack shit with them. But in my head, I was like, Zach Moss is going to be the goal line guy. He'll be like worth it when he gets a touchdown. But also Josh Allen is going to vulture some of those. And like, it doesn't really make it worth it. And then Singletary will be like the middle of the field and pass catching guy. And he'll have some pretty solid week-to-week standalone value. If Zach Moss has pass catching ability and is a pass blocker as well, that changes everything, because it means he can be on the field at any time. He's not just that goal line guy, that red zone guy. So if he's getting some goal line looks, if he gets to 6-7 touchdowns this year, plus gets 30 to 40 targets, that pays off that round 9 price, like right there.
Yeah, and you're not tanking yourself in the middle rounds for Singletary, who is just kind of a solid dude. So it's way more of an upside swing for you later on, especially we're just talking 0 RB to death, but later rounds, this guy could save you too.
Yeah, he's if I'm going 0 RB and in the 9th and 10th rounds, I get Zach Moss and Chase Edmonds, I am horny about that. I am horned up.
Also, again, anything happens to Singletary, and like this year is going to be wild with like all the COVID stuff too, shoots right up to a median starter.
Yeah, absolutely. And potentially RB1, like Buffalo's going to be a pretty good team. And if you have a guy who's guaranteed like 22 touches a game on that team, like dude is probably an RB1 week in, week out.
There's a lot of similarities between the Bills and the Cardinals that I just realized. Their wide receivers are disgusting, and their running backs are pretty fucking good. Yeah,
it's going to be an interesting year for both teams. I'm excited.
I'm just waiting for that pendulum swing where like new teams are exciting, and like the Bills and Cardinals are definitely on the up and up. So I'm just waiting for like that, paradigm shift.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't put this on the outline, but can you believe that John Brown is going with the 12th pick in the 12th round?
No. I will have him on. I will fight you for him. I'm probably taking him in the 10th in our league.
Dude, I thought I was in my head, I was like, oh yeah, like he's like a 7th, 8th round pick. No, he's going the last pick in the 12th round right now. Unreal.
It's stupid. We like John Brown a lot too. So, I mean, for good reason, but that late is just disrespectful.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about another pass catcher. Less hyped, probably less important, but Dawson Knox is getting some hype as an improved blocker. He is the second-year tight end for the Bills. The coaching staff has said that they are impressed with him. And he did have 3 games over 50 yards receiving in 2019. He kind of faded down the stretch. Now, we're not talking about Knox as anything more than like a late-round flyer, but do you have any interest in him, or am I getting too cute?
You might be getting too cute. He made some really ridiculous catches last season, but it's just on a team where I'm guessing they're going to want to target Zach Moss, and not to mention they're like 3 stud wide receivers a ton. I don't think there's going to be a lot to go around for Dawson Knox.
Fair enough. That's probably what I needed to hear.
Yeah, you
Sorry, go
did.
ahead.
Oh, no, need I remind you, Tyler Kroft, Bengals veteran, is breathing down his neck in that second spot on the depth chart. So always watch out for Tyler Kroft.
Yeah, no, my assumption was Kroft would do some more blocking, and Knox might be like the Mark Andrews of the offense, where he's not out there all the time, but he'll run some routes. But
you assumed correctly. I was fucking around.
Okay. All right, let's move to Carolina, where all of the wide receivers are getting hyped by pretty much everyone, and that's DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, and Robbie Anderson. Ian Thomas, the tight end, is having, quote-unquote, a quiet camp. So
what does that mean?
That he's not really standing out, I guess. I don't know. Let's talk about these wide receivers with DJ Moore at wide receiver 12, 12th pick in the 3rd round. Curtis Samuel at wide receiver 63, 6th pick in the 14th round. Robbie Anderson at wide receiver 65, 7th pick in the 14th round. One of these things is not like the others, and that's DJ Moore all the way up top. Is that is he being overdrafted at wide receiver 12, or do you think that's fair?
Oh, it's a massive overdraft. I see the same upside and value in both Samuel and Anderson. I feel like I'm going to have Anderson in every goddamn league again.
See, I think I'm going to have Samuel in every goddamn league again.
I mean, they're right next to each other, so it's really just like take your pick at that point, but like, fuck, dude.
So my thinking, and I do like DJ Moore, maybe not that like high. I do like him though. But my thinking is that Moore and Samuel will operate close to the line of scrimmage, and Anderson will become the deep threat, where Samuel was sort of, cast as the deep threat last year. But I like that because Teddy Bridgewater, operates close to the line of scrimmage as well. So that's why I prefer Samuel if you're going to do the late round dart throw. But tell me why you like Anderson there as the late round dart throw.
So I guess I should retract that. Not exactly hop on the Samuel side of it, but I think it has to do a lot with team structure. Like if you wind up with more deep threats on your team, like maybe you have Hollywood Brown, you took him early on. You're not going to take Anderson. You're probably going to take Samuel. So some kind of situation like that, I think you're going to have to figure out as your draft goes. I think that Anderson can hit the home run ball anytime, and I think he's a good wide receiver, and all they have to do is just kind of get him moving. But that'll also be tough to do in an offseason where there has been, little room to, get to know an offense and stuff like that. So Samuel has that for him too on, that side of things. So maybe I was quick to jump on Anderson just because I like him, but I think since they're so close in ADP, it's all how your team is going to be built and what you need at that point.
And that's definitely fair. And to be fair as well, I love Robbie Anderson as a player. I think he's more than just a deep threat. I think he might just kind of be cast as a deep threat this year. To devil's advocate, my own point, maybe that's a good thing because we haven't even talked about that 100 plus targets are going to Christian McCaffrey, and those are all short targets too. So if you've got DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey, and Curtis Samuel all operating in the short area, and Robbie Anderson is the guy operating deep, then maybe the short area is sort of overpopulated and Anderson does outperform Samuel. There's a lot of different scenarios that are all pretty viable here. I think maybe I was too quick to poo-poo Anderson there, but
look at us, man. We're just talking.
Yeah, we're just talking things out, coming to absolutely no concrete conclusion, but
I like your guy, you like my
scenarios.
Guy. But yeah. I think the point we're making is more in the third or late third is absolutely, it has to be super crazy. It has to be compared to
it's a little much for me. I will say that. He's going ahead of Juju, Amari, Cooper Kupp, Calvin Ridley, Robert Woods.
Super crazy.
I think he's in the same tier as all those guys, but I don't know if he's ahead of all of them.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if he's exactly earned to be a tier above those.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, it's again, brand new quarterback, brand new system. I do think Teddy will like DJ Moore, but it's all projection at this point. Let's move to Chicago. So still nothing concrete on the starting quarterback situation, but neither guy is being drafted. I think we've had this discussion where you think Trubisky is going to start and I think Foles is going to start. Am I correct there?
Yeah, we went over this. It's going to be Mitch, has to be, and then Foles comes in to save the day.
Okay, fair enough. The interesting, and again, this was a team with not that much, so I just kind of threw in this one just for the hell of it to stir up some shit. Cordarrelle Patterson.
This made me angry, actually. I was like, why are we even talking about this?
Cordarrelle Patterson is in meetings with running backs instead of wide receivers in training camp. So my question to you is, does David Montgomery have competition for early down carries? Does he, Vinny?
Dude, news like this makes me miss preseason games. I fucking hate this.
Yeah, there is.
Like, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? Yeah, there can't be.
I was going to say there's a 0% chance we're going to be talking about this if the preseason is happening. Because if the preseason was happening, Cordarrelle Patterson would be busting 40-yard runs out of the backfield.
I was going with zero shot that Patterson has any implication on the RB situation here, but now I'm very nervous.
I'm not drafting David Montgomery in the 4th round either way, so I don't give a shit.
Let me see what's going on there.
I'm not taking a running back in the 4th round.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a lot of wide receiver action there. And he's going before Mark Ingram? Fuck off. No way.
Dude, the wide receivers going where you can take David fucking Montgomery are the guys that we were just talking about. Like Amari Cooper, Cooper Kupp, Calvin Ridley, Robert Woods, A.J. Brown. Like
Tyler Lockett, Keenan Allen.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. No way. I hope Patterson takes over. Then we have another flyer.
Again, this is why I keep talking about rounds like 2 through fucking like 5. You should only be taking wide receivers like in those rounds. The running, I mean, maybe running backs in round 2, but like if you're taking a running back in round 4 ahead of these wide receivers that are going, me and you live on different planets when it comes to fantasy football.
Yeah, what the fuck are you doing? Oh wow, this is going to be a shit season. Well, just mocks. Have you done mocks lately? Not to like just throw that in there, but
I started doing a couple this past week again because I started panicking about what I'm going to do.
I did
at
the same thing,
spot.
dude. I've never felt like they've been more worthless. Like usually I get something out of them. This year I'm just like, that was the dumbest thing I've ever done. That was a massive waste of time. Yeah.
I mean, I don't really feel like I'm gaining too much, but it is what it is, I guess. Let's move on to your Cincinnati Bengals. There really wasn't a ton of news for them either. John Ross left camp to take care of his son. He is expected back before the season. T. Higgins has been sidelined with a hamstring injury.
Also A.J. Green.
A.J. Green has a hamstring injury as well?
A slight tweak. No big deal.
Okay. So I think the real question among these wide receivers is, do we like A.J. Green at wide receiver 26, 3rd pick in the 6th round, or Tyler Boyd at wide receiver 35, 12th pick in the 7th round? Because, like, at this point, John Ross being gone, T. Higgins being gone, like, I don't give a shit about Alex Erickson or Auden Tate if A.J. Green is healthy.
Correct.
Like, are those fair spots for the two of them?
I think I'm going to go with Tyler Boyd on this one, especially since he's, going later, cheaper. AJ Green definitely name value and people's expectations. Like AJ Green is still filthy. It's just he has to stay healthy and do something. I think I'm kind of seeing this as like, let's say Joe Burrow is Andrew Luck and AJ Green is Reggie Wayne. I think it's going to be very comparable to that when Andrew Luck came in and, had his rookie season with Reggie Wayne, someone to lean on, have 1,000-yard season, be real solid. But the risk mounted in with AJ Green's like unhealthiness and all that, I just got to go with Tyler Boyd there. And the bonus you get there is Joe Burrow is very favorable to the slot when he was at LSU. So
that's true. Justin Jefferson was his slot receiver, and Justin Jefferson got picked 22nd in the draft.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, that's basically what it boils down to for me.
Yeah, that's very fair. I agree with you. I think Boyd has a much safer projection of outcomes, and Green is obviously at the higher end. If AJ Green goes back to like, this is AJ Green, then like obviously you made out like a bandit in the 6th round getting him
right
there. But that seems unrealistic, and more likely he will be, a pretty steady guy, like you said. So yeah, I think I'm with you where like I'm willing to draft both of them at those ADPs.
Yeah, no, I have no problem with either one. I think you're making out pretty well there as it is. So,
all right. Well, let's move on. But first, we need to take a break because
you're listening to Let's Talk Fantasy Football, home of the brutally honest fantasy advice you've always needed.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are ready to continue cruising through the NFL. Vinny and I have decided on that first break that we are going to turn this into 2 podcasts because we don't want to have to rush through talking about stuff. So this will be the first half of the NFL. We're going to get through Kansas City, and then the next one we will be getting through the rest of the NFL. In my brain, I was like, yeah, we can make this 1 podcast, but it'll probably be like an hour and a half. And it turns out we like talking about shit. And this is like the beginning of it, and we like talking about shit. Just wait till we each get 4 or 5 beers in. You would be amazed by how much we like talking about shit. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about shit. Vin, does that sound good to you?
That sounds so lovely.
This is like the highlights of our weeks, honestly.
I know.
During COVID.
Yeah, now more than ever. They were highlights when we could go outside and shit.
Yeah. Now it's like I get to Friday, and about like noon on Friday, I'm like, I get to record a podcast tonight, and then I get antsy for the rest of the day. Anyway, let's jump right back in. We just talked about Vinny's Cincinnati Bengals, and we'll stay within the division talking about the Cleveland Browns. Nick Chubb suffered a concussion, unfortunate, is expected to be back in plenty of time for the opener. Nick Chubb is RB12, 4th pick in the 2nd round. Another guy that I would potentially have to consider at that first-round turn. The concussion doesn't really matter. How do you feel about Nick Chubb there?
I'm very skeptical. I think it's mainly because I'm horny for Hunt.
Right. We need to make that like a phrase or whatever. Yeah.
I was thinking like the honk if you're horny, but just horny for Hunt.
Obviously there's another word that rhymes with Hunt that's like very, very vulgar and could be used in there. I don't know if we want to make, anyway.
The second podcast when Shrek's too tired and he like forgets to edit, we'll do that.
No, I'm kind of there with you, and I think Nick Chubb has all the upside in the world, but I think because of Kareem Hunt, he becomes an even more extreme version of Derrick Henry, where we know when Kareem Hunt was in last year, Chubb's targets sunk like a rock. So, like drafting a guy who's not going to get targets with the 4th pick in the 2nd round is tough. It's the same reason I struggle with Henry at his price or that sort of thing. It's just tough to do because the ceiling is obviously huge. Nick Chubb is extremely talented, and if he has 4 30-plus point fantasy games next year, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah.
But also if he has 6 games lower than 10 points, would not be shocked in PPR,
And that could be his season. He could just be – it's like on the Aaron Jones level. It's like he could blow up, score a bunch of touchdowns, but he's not going to do what you want him to do on a daily basis, weekly basis, whatever. But,
it'll be interesting.
The Henry comparison is very fair because it's just like there's all the talent in the world, rushes like a monster, but without the guaranteed, volume in the passing game, it's tough. It's tough to sacrifice draft capital that high.
Yeah, it falls into the same category as Josh Jacobs as well. Just a guy that we know is super talented and has a huge ceiling, but we're not sure if the pass game work is going to be there, which becomes an issue if the team is losing. It just creates a low floor.
I haven't seen a puff piece on Nick Chubb trying to catch more passes, but I did see one on Josh Jacobs, so I'm bumping up Josh Jacobs because puff pieces mean everything.
That is true. Puff pieces do mean everything. This is the year of no preseason, so we don't have any actual stats or anything to work off of. So puff pieces, while they normally mean everything, they actually mean more than everything this year.
That's right, people.
All right, let's talk about another player in Cleveland, Jarvis Landry. He is way ahead of schedule following his hip surgery this year, and this offseason, excuse me. The Browns are hoping that he can be back for week 1. He's currently going wide receiver 34, 12th pick in the 7th round. Is he worth the risk coming off an injury at that price to you?
I don't think so. And was this exactly where he was going last year?
I feel like it was like 4th or 5th last year, but maybe
still pretty high.
I feel like this is really, really cheap for Jarvis if we assume health, which is a big assumption and not necessarily one that we can make. But
I was thinking this was kind of high.
Dude, he had 83 catches for 1,174 yards last year.
But he didn't do it like Jarvis Landry usually does. That's the problem.
Well, he did it in a way that's potentially better because he had a longer average depth of target. And I think, I don't know, I just think there's a ton of upside in this pick, man. Like, the Browns, I think, are going to be better as a whole. He was already really good last year. Obviously, we think Odell is going to be better. But like, I think that Baker can support 2 top 30 wide receivers, like pretty no problem.
And Austin Hooper?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I mean, you do get into that little gray area, and you bring up a good point because Hooper's there. Hunt's going to be playing a full season. Odell
Beckham was hampered by injuries all last season. They were just not a great team. They just had very, like, I don't know, it just seemed like they weren't, cohesive as a unit. So maybe they got a little better this offseason. Who knows? Probably not. But they, at least had that year to fix shit. So, I mean, like the guys going around him, I'm even more enticed to take Brandon Cooks ahead of Landry.
See, yeah, I could see that as well. And again, this is sort of
Tyler Boyd right below him.
This is reinforcing our point that mid-round wide receiver is just so deep right now. Where if you're not drafting wide receivers in this general range, you're making a huge mistake. To me, I mean, like Jarvis Landry last year was wide receiver 12 in PPR, and he's going as wide receiver 34. He has the injury risk, but other than that, and adding Austin Hooper, the roster hasn't changed.
If anything, finished 12.
He was wide receiver 12 in PPR last year.
Jesus Christ. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, man. He had 1,100 yards and 6 touchdowns. Like, he was good last year.
Jarvis Landry's only good in my mind if he catches 150 passes for less than 1,000 yards.
If he's catching a bunch of, 3-yard crossing routes and
getting murdered every time. It makes me sound so stupid for saying he didn't do it like Jarvis Landry usually does. And you're like, yeah, that's a good thing, you idiot.
Yeah, I have his Pro Football Reference page up. It's in 2015 and 2017. 2017 is the epitome of it. 112 catches for 987 yards.
That's Jarvis Landry.
Yards per catch. And you're like, yeah, that's what I want out of Jarvis Landry.
Well, it's hard. I guess it's hard for my brain to catch up to the yardage. I'm just like, he's a PPR machine. Now it's a yardage thing. No way.
Yeah, no, what the Browns have shown is that Miami used Jarvis Landry in a way that they absolutely did not have to use him for the entire time that he was there.
When you think about it, no one should be used like that.
Yeah, exactly. He was used as a running back in the slot for 4 years in Miami, and we all thought that's what he was.
No wonder he needed hip surgery. Christ.
Yeah. Anyway, I think the point of all of that is that there's a fuck ton of wide receivers around that thing that you should be targeting, around that price that you should be targeting.
Yeah.
And we'll see how it goes. All right, moving on to Dallas. This is sort of a developing story, but left tackle Tyron Smith suffered an undisclosed injury in practice. Right tackle La'el Collins was involved in a minor car crash on the 20th of August, has not practiced yet this training camp. I don't think either of these guys are really projected to have a ton of time missed, but does that give you pause about Dallas in general? Because their offensive line is just such a huge part of their offense.
Yeah, and I'm starting to wonder how long we can keep saying, their offensive line is so great. Because, we've seen a slight decline, but nothing major. These injuries don't help, but I don't think they're a huge factor right now, the season still, we have plenty of time for them to get back from these, it seems, very minor injuries. So I think they'll still be fine. Zeke, it would not change Zeke's status for me at all. I don't think it's changing Dak for me either. So, I'm going to go with no on that one.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, I think the biggest offensive line situation this offseason was Travis Frederick's unexpected retirement, but then again, they drafted Tyler Biadasz as someone who could potentially replace him. So we'll see what happens there. You know where I'm at on Dallas. I bet Dak to win the MVP.
That is correct.
when we talk about running backs later, I will have only good things to say about Zeke. So I am very, very high on Dallas. I think they are a Super Bowl contender. And yeah, just going to keep going from there. The coaching staff for Dallas has said that both CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper will see time in the slot and outside. So we're not looking at a wide receiver situation where one guy is going to be the dedicated slot receiver. It seems like Gallup will be definitely outside. Cooper and Lamb will both move in and out of the slot as well as outside. I'm very interested to see what happens with all of this, and let's just talk about their wide receivers and where they're going. Amari Cooper is wide receiver 14, second pick in the 4th round. Michael Gallup is wide receiver 32, 5th pick in the 7th round. CeeDee Lamb is wide receiver, what the fuck did I write there? 40.
It looks like he's going in the 9th.
Yeah. I didn't put a space in between the wide receiver ranking and the actual
409.
Yeah. CeeDee Lamb is wide receiver 40, the second pick in the 9th round. So out of these three guys, which are you targeting, if any, or like if all of them? Are you like, what are you doing there?
I think Cooper. Cooper is definitely my favorite. I think because he's one of the like guys right before a cliff for me. So like right when you hit Amari Cooper, it kind of drops off into like Cooper Kupp, Calvin Ridley, Robert Woods, AJ Brown territory. Okay. So I think Cooper's probably the last elite kind of guy you can get, especially if he's going to be hopping in and out of the, just more opportunity in the slot. So the more he's hopping in and out there, like that's good. That seems like a positive to me. So, and I just think that him and Dak really had something going. And I think, Cooper's always kind of been like the blow up kind of guy, but could also have solid weeks. So I really have been less down on Cooper than I have been in past years, where I just kind of say he's a breakout, week to week, but I think he can kind of maintain a more stable output this year.
Yeah. You said something that really, clicked with me with the stable output, because that's always been the issue with Cooper, right? He's been so inconsistent. He, goes for these huge games one week and he looks like he's invisible the next week. I think if he can get like 40% of his snaps in the slot, that's huge for him, because he's always been a guy who's excelled in the slot. It's obviously easier to get open in the slot. It's easier to get the ball there. So if he's getting some slot work and not necessarily being the primary slot wide receiver, but just being in there enough during a game to get a couple easy targets, to get him going, to get that floor for him, that could be huge. For me, I'm very, very in on Michael Gallup in the middle of the 7th round. When you look at Gallup last year, another guy, probably like Jarvis Landry, where you wouldn't guess just how prolific he was. Michael Gallup last year, in only 14 games, 113 targets, 66 receptions, 1,107 yards, and 6 touchdowns. That is a great year.
That's amazing.
And again, he's like he's
but he didn't do it like Michael Gallup. That's like, man. Fucking wow.
Yeah. I mean, wide receiver 22 last year. He's going wide receiver 32 now. You would think an ascending guy, a guy going into his 3rd year in the league who had a breakout year as a 2nd-year receiver would kind of be priced up based on us expecting him to like do a little bit better. And he's priced down on his results from last year as a guy who only played 14 games. So yeah, I'm pretty high on Gallup. I'm very high on this whole offense. CeeDee Lamb, I don't think I'm actively going to be targeting, but I'm also not opposed to taking him. So
I'll have to have like a weird team makeup to like want to take CeeDee Lamb, I think, in the 9th. Yeah,
that's fair. To me, I don't know if he's necessarily a guy who's going to come into his own this year, but also like the dude balls, like he's really good. So I mean, there's a reason that he was such a hyped wide receiver and everyone was so shocked when he fell to Dallas. But I agree with you. I think, if I were to do 100 drafts, I think I would end up with the most Gallup, the 2nd most Cooper, and the 3rd most Lamb.
Yeah, very fair. I think for me, it's going to go Cooper, probably Gallup, Lamb, like in the order they're getting drafted. I think they're appropriately priced.
That's definitely a good call. Let's move to Denver, where Vic Fangio said that Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay will both play enough that they, quote, really don't have to designate a starter, to which
Does he know what his job is?
I was really confused by this. And I mean, I think if you're drafting Melvin Gordon at running back 21, 12th in the third round, that's a huge eye-opener for you, right?
Scary. We were loving on Gordon, and now this is kind of shit that makes you take a step back and just like, like really just like look at the round gap between those two and how much production you can imagine Gordon's going to have and Lindsay's going to have, and then just kind of actualize it. Like Lindsay is superior, very much more the superior pick right now.
Yeah, for their relative values, I completely agree because – Lindsay's been hyped up, and they're hyping him up as a guy that they think could catch passes, which they didn't really do last year because he was coming off that wrist injury. They're saying, he's completely fine from that now. We think we can use him in the pass game more. We don't need to designate a starter between the two. The only thing to me that indicates that Gordon is like clearly the superior guy is the contract. But again, Lindsay's still on his rookie contract. So who really knows there? Just very worrying for the Melvin Gordon crowd, I think.
Yeah, and again, that's like that running back area that we're stressing is very much a problem. Like that third round, fourth round, it's just you're investing a ton in a guy that doesn't have a lockdown role, and then someone else going later could easily step in or, compete right away. Like you could probably be starting Lindsay week 1 and he'll be fine.
Can this be a Melvin Gordon, Austin Eckler situation where they can both start? Going back in the day, a Devontae Freeman, Tevin Coleman situation where Gordon's an RB2 and Lindsay's a flex. Like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I could totally see it. It's just which headache do you want? I would probably lean on like the headache is definitely on Gordon's side because you're taking him higher, and I think there's – I don't want to say more pressure on Gordon to succeed because there's probably more pressure on Lindsay's side, but I just think he'll have more opportunity to come in on third down. I mean, we've seen Melvin Gordon be like a pass catcher, but I think if they're going to want to use Lindsay as more of a scat back, this would be the time to do it.
Yeah. And when we talk about these offenses where they can support two running backs, one an RB2, one a flex, like that kind of thing, they're good offenses. Like, there's no guarantee that Denver is a good offense this year. Drew Lock is their fucking quarterback.
Right. He had a couple decent games and, like, threw a couple deep balls to Sutton. Like, are they upgraded to a fucking, juggernaut offense? No.
This team might not be that good. So
if Gordon had less than 6 touchdowns and Lindsay had less than 6 touchdowns, I would not be surprised either way.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting situation. As someone who has been on Gordon and who has vocally been on Gordon for a little bit, I'm kind of getting off of him. And like you said, this whole running back range is just fucked. So there's not really much more to say there. The other interesting thing was Jerry Jeudy, their first round pick, who I thought should have been a Raider.
Henry Ruggs.
Currently going as wide receiver 45, sixth pick in the 10th round. As well as KJ Hamler, who is now sidelined with a hamstring injury. But before that, both of them were getting reps with the second team, while Tim Patrick and Deshaun Hamilton have joined Courtland Sutton with the starters. Do you think this is just like an ease into camp thing, or do you buy that they're not going to start Jerry Jeudy?
I don't buy that. They would be an awful football team if they did not start Jerry Jeudy. That would be – but then again, like Vic Fangio is saying he doesn't have to declare a starter, so I don't know if he realizes that he's a head coach. So if he's not going to be – dude, this guy needs – like Jerry Jeudy needs to be playing. Like that is just – there is no possible way this guy should not be starting week 1.
My ideal scenario with these guys, with KJ Hamler getting injured and supposedly out for 4 weeks with a hamstring injury, is Jerry Jeudy starts in the slot with Tim Patrick and Courtland Sutton on the outside. And I don't think that's going to happen. I think they'll start Deshaun Hamilton and Jerry Jeudy on the outside. But when they first drafted Jerry Jeudy, I was like, that motherfucker is going to play in the slot and he's going to catch 80 balls. Like that's what's going to happen.
It makes sense, right?
Yeah. And it seems like they just actively don't want that to happen in Denver for some reason. At least for the first couple of years, start him in the slot, move him outside, do the Antonio Brown thing. I feel like that's the biggest comp for Jerry Jeudy is Antonio Brown, which shows how much I like him. Which, again, they did the same thing. They started him in the slot. He established himself. They moved him outside. He was good enough to make it work. I'm ranting, but I guess the point of this is that this whole situation is really fucking weird. Like, I don't know.
It makes me want to avoid everything Bronco. Like, I don't like anything they're doing.
Yeah, me neither.
No, this is bad.
Let's move to
Noah Fant, though.
Ooh, yeah, Noah Fant I can deal with. Noah Fant I can take a late round shot on.
Hell yeah.
What is that, 11th round, something like that?
Who cares? It's all free after the fucking 8th round.
Yeah, for real. No, it is the 11th round right now, and yeah, that's tasty. That's a tasty 11th round.
It's basically undrafted.
Pretty much. All right, on to Detroit, where Kerryon Johnson has been spotted wearing a knee brace, but is also practicing in full. And then DeAndre Swift, who I believe actually got hurt today, but like a minor injury, has looked good as a pass catcher out of the backfield. That's sort of the beat reporter and coach take on the situation. It's expected that the two of them will work as a committee this year. And this is another situation where, like,
it's the same thing, dude. It's
when
the
I
same
looked
thing
at
as
the
last
ADP,
year.
when I looked at the ADP, though, like, I expected Kerryon to be the higher drafted guy. And, like, Swift is going in the 5th round as RB28, and Kerryon's going in the 9th as RB42. Is there value on Kerryon, or am I, like, full of shit there?
No, you're totally – like, the value is absolutely on Johnson. But, like, what exactly is that value? You get the running back for Detroit who they have no idea how to use. Like, it's troublesome. Like, it's just I do not – they're as bad as Denver with their, like, ambiguity. It's just you need to commit to one of these guys. You can't be – like, would you be shocked if Bo Scarborough had fucking a playable week within week 5?
No, absolutely not.
Exactly. So, like, you draft Kerryon – it's an awesome pick at the time just for value, but, like, what are you really getting there?
Yeah, I mean, Kerryon works out if, like, Kenny Golladay gets tackled at the 12 times and Kerryon gets 12 touchdowns out of it. Like, that's sort of like where he works out, I guess.
So what's with the Swift? Like, everyone's just piling on Swift early?
Pass catching running back, that's obviously a thing that you're looking for. I don't really have strong opinions on him otherwise. That seems too early to me, running back 28. But I'm trying to look at who he's going around. I mean, he's going around Kareem Hunt, Raheem Mostert, Ronald Jones, Cam Akers, James White. Running back gets ugly early. So
But I would much rather have mostly all those dudes except for probably Ronald Jones.
I would rather have Marlon Mack, too, who's going after.
Yeah. I was going to say Mack. Even – not Jordan Howard. I almost said Jordan Howard.
the Howard combo?
No, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's tough to expect there. I feel like Detroit's just going to have a great downfield passing attack this year, and I will probably just be avoiding their running backs for the most part.
Yeah, I can get down with that.
With the rest of their passing attack, one other part that I'm going to be avoiding, TJ Hawkinson is still not 100% after his ankle injury in 2019.
That's bad.
Yeah, he's tight end 14, first pick in the 13th round. Like, just don't do it, really.
Seemed like just yesterday we were telling people in auction leagues to drop their whole fucking bankroll to get him week 2.
I don't think I ever told anyone that, but
I definitely said that.
Well, fair enough. Let's move on to Green Bay, where the biggest story out of camp is that A.J. Dillon's thighs are fucking huge. Have you seen the picture?
No. Wait, hold on. I'll Google it right now.
Can't believe you haven't seen this.
I mean, I have an Eddie Lacy fetish, so this should be fucking right up my alley.
Oh, no. It's like Eddie Lacy if Eddie Lacy was ripped as shit.
Hold on. I'm nervous typing this in my search bar.
A.J. Dillon thighs.
All right, let's see what we got. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, dude's built, right?
Oh, my God. It's like Saquon Barkley fucked Eddie Lacy. Oh, my God. This is great. Wallpaper.
So the question is, do the gigantic thighs justify his position as the running back 51, the third pick in the 11th round?
No, sadly.
Yeah, he has no pass catching upside. Like, don't care. Just do not care.
We talked about this 3 months ago where we're just like, no, it's like the running backs in Green Bay are so dependent on touchdowns. If A.J. Dillon's going to be getting a couple of them throughout the year, it just kind of sinks the appeal of all of them.
Yeah.
So you play A.J. Dillon and you get a touchdown in 10 yards.
It's a three-way committee potentially with one guy who does everything, one guy who gets goal line carries, and one guy who gets pass down work. And like the only one to target is the guy who does everything. But the issue with that is that he's going in the second round.
And they don't play him. Play him.
So yeah, the whole thing is fucked.
Do you think people are going to be surprised when Aaron Jones is still just like not getting playing time?
Maybe. I mean, people keep complaining about it. That's for sure.
I know. Like, I want a moment where they're just like, oh, I'm the problem.
Right. It's like the fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice. Well, you don't get fooled twice. But yeah, moving to the tight end position. Have you been a Jay Sternberger person, or am I thinking of Don and Rogers?
Gotta be thinking of those two.
Okay, because he is in a position battle with Robert Tonyan at the tight end position. So if you were thinking of Jay Sternberger as a late round breakout tight end candidate, one, you were wrong to begin with because it just didn't line up, and two, stop it.
Yeah. Also, for the record, my favorite Green Bay tight end of all time is Tom Crabtree.
That is the only correct choice.
Exactly.
All right. At wide receiver 2, it appears that Allen Lazard is the heavy favorite to pick that up. He's still technically competing with Equanimous St. Brown, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and former CFL player Reggie Begelton, also a former Lamar Cardinal. Peckham was a wide receiver for one of my best friends, Doug, who was the quarterback for the Lamar Cardinals when Reggie Begelton was there.
Fuck yeah.
So hopefully, in my heart of hearts, I hope that Reggie Begelton wins the job because of that. And but right now, Allen Lazard is the heavy favorite to be the wide receiver too. Do you like him at that draft point? Do you think he has upside there in the 12th round?
Yeah, I'm starting to talk myself into it. And on the last podcast that you did, you were saying, like, if Aaron Rodgers likes you, you're fucking in. And it seems like he hasn't liked somebody in quite some time. So if Allen Lazard is getting the, Aaron Rodgers nod of approval, like, I'm all in, especially at, like, it costing me next to Dick in a draft. Like, you got to be kidding me. So I'm very much talking myself into it.
Yeah, I mean – like you said, after like you said the 8th, but really after like the 10th or 11th round, like go after whoever you want to go after. And even though the Packers are going to be a very run heavy team, that doesn't mean that Allen Lazard can't have good games as the wide receiver too. There are going to be games where like they have a high over under. And that's a game where you can just be like, I have Allen Lazard on my bench. I have a bye week and I am going to put him in.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. And I also, should probably have this news ready, but I think Devontae Adams got dinged up in practice. Probably a non-factor right now this early, but he's been having case of the injuries the last couple of years. So if you can get Allen Lazard, he could be another guy that hops in right away into a starting lineup.
And there you have it. Moving on to Houston, running backs coach Danny Barrett and head coach Bill O'Brien have talked up using 21 personnel this year to get both David and Duke Johnson, the Johnson brothers. Johnson. Wait, how did I not just Johnson and Johnson was right there? Jesus Christ, God, I suck.
Johnson & Johnson, tier free. You fucked up so bad.
Johnson and Johnson, drafting either of them is going to cause a lot of tears this year.
Listening to Bill O'Brien will cause massive tears.
So my question was, do we buy this or are they full of shit? And,
they're full of shit, man.
Yeah, they're full of shit.
They couldn't even get Duke Johnson a steady target load after taking him away from a team to be a steady target guy when Lamar Miller is, injured. So, yeah, I don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're a bad team, or they're poorly run. They have good talent, but they're poorly run.
Yes, exactly. They traded for They traded for Brandon Cooks. They signed Randall Cobb to a huge contract. So that means he has to be on the field in the slot, which immediately eliminates the 2 running back thing, unless they go no tight ends. But they have 4 viable tight ends on their roster.
They do everything wrong.
Yeah, it's really strange. They're absolutely full of shit. I'm starting to buy into David Johnson again this year, and I need someone to slap me or punch me in the face or something.
So he's one of those guys I see, and I'm just like, man, we had a good thing. I could give it another shot. But just with everything Bill O'Brien does and the Texans squad, I cannot – it's very hard to commit. It's very hard to commit to David Johnson.
I've said that for the past 2 years, and now he's coached by Bill O'Brien. So just I need to get the fuck away from it. It's like a toxic relationship for me, and I need to be very away from it for a while, I think.
I think that'd be good for you.
All right, Indianapolis, we have glowing reports out of training camp for both young wide receivers. That's Michael Pittman Jr., the second-round pick, currently going as wide receiver 59, the 9th pick in the 14th round, and Paris Campbell, the second-year receiver out of Ohio State, who is going undrafted. How do you feel about these guys as late-round flyers?
Dude, give me Campbell. Love that. Guy, the last year was totally lost on him. So all talent in the world coming in. T.Y. Hilton kind of getting old, but still, very. I love T.Y. Hilton, but Phillip's going to sling. He's going to have to sling. So I'm on the Campbell side of this.
I think I'm right there with you. I see. So if we want to compare wide receivers in Indy to Phillips wide receivers or pass catching options in San Diego, I think you can look at Pittman as the Mike Williams, where he might have some blow up weeks and also have a low floor. And I think you can look at Paris Campbell as the Austin Eckler in that offense, where a guy who's going to be lined up all over the field, might be running some wheel routes, just a bunch of weird shit, and a super talented guy. So, yeah, I think I'm with you where I like Campbell over Pittman. But I think they're both relatively good late-round flyers. And, again, the 14th round is nothing. You can do whatever the fuck you want there.
Yeah, it caught me off guard with that comparison, but I don't hate it at all. And, this late to get, a second option for Phillip, I dig it.
All right, the other big story out of Colts training camp is Jonathan Taylor, currently going the 9th pick in the 4th round, running back 22. He is impressing at camp by being a fucking gigantic person who runs over people. So the question is, do you buy him up there, and how soon can he take over full-time for Marlon Mack, if at all?
He won't. Marlon Mack is a starter. They've said this several times. And we've talked about the fuckery in the 4th round. I think this is contributing to the problem.
Yeah, there's a definite chance that we end up as sticks in the mud on this take, because we're all very much Jonathan Taylor isn't going to be a thing this year. And by the end of the year, he might be Derrick Henry version 2.0. And
I doubt it.
He might, but I'm fine with being a stick in the mud on this thing. I feel like we're being pragmatic. I feel like we're being the reasonable people. And I'm not actively even targeting Mac at that point, because I just think
I am when he's in the 7th, dude. That's pretty wild.
I think he's gone up a lot recently. I feel like he was in the 8th or 9th, a month or two ago, but whatever.
I don't get the reasoning there. That's so crazy.
The reasoning is Jonathan Taylor is a gigantic jacked ass dude is so what it is.
That's okay. I mean, No. Marlon Mack all the way. This is bullshit.
All right. Let's move to Jacksonville, where you're going to like this one.
No, I hate this one too.
Josh Oliver was placed on season-ending injury reserve after breaking his foot. He was their second-year tight end. We have James O'Shaughnessy. He's been activated after tearing his ACL in week 5 of last season. But the guy that we need to talk about is goddamn Tyler Eifert, who played his first 16-game season in forever last year, under the radar, and, quote, has looked good early in camp.
Being on a 2-14 football team will do that to you.
Is Tyler Eifert a late-round tight end target?
Dude, I've said this so many times. It doesn't fucking matter. So, yes. Draft Tyler Eifert. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Like, he could be fucking Minshew's best friend. Who knows?
I want him over Jonnu Smith.
Yeah, why not?
You're not giving me anything here. That's all right.
I can't. There's nothing I could give you, Walsh.
You've been hurt too many times. I understand.
I can't. No, I love Tyler Eifert. I really. There's no reason not to take him like this late. You didn't draft a tight end. You take Tyler Eifert. It's no big deal, and he could be great. He could break his ankle week 1. It's a sad state of affairs, but that's Tyler Eifert's life, and I love the dude to death.
I am going to
just only start Tyler Eifert against me.
No, I'm going to plant my flag on Tyler Eifert's going to have a good season hill here.
So hold on, what is the threshold for that? So like over 1,000 or like touchdown wise?
Not over 1,000. We're talking about fucking tight ends. What are you? Like,
he could take the step.
Tyler Eifert is a top 12 fantasy tight end in 2020.
Oh, easily. He could definitely do that.
Yeah, I'm saying he's going to. I'm not saying he could. I'm saying he's going to.
You're testing me. I can't take that. I like him too much. No deal.
All right, fair enough. Well, let's go ahead and move to the other big story out of Jacksonville camp, which is that Laviska Shenault has stood out as a route runner and against press coverage. And this is interesting for a couple reasons. One, he was looked at as kind of a gadget player. So the fact that the coaching staff is saying he's a good route runner is pretty huge.
Coaching staff or beat writers?
Sorry?
Coaching staff or beat writers?
Good question. I didn't write it down and I don't know. But I think you can kind of use them interchangeably in terms of like how well they're doing in route running. Maybe not necessarily, but the point is his comp coming out of college was sort of Cordarrelle Patterson, and it appears that he is, as a rookie, a much better route runner than Cordarrelle Patterson has ever been, as evidenced by him being a running back now.
Oh, I was just about to say being in running back meetings, so
yeah,
that's a lot to go on.
I mean, look, Jacksonville, DJ Shark obviously broke out last year as their number one option, but like fucking I can't even think of the guys' names. Chris Conley and DJ Westbrook. There we go. Those guys aren't shit. Like, they need a number 2 option behind DJ Shark. It seems like Shenault could be the guy. To me, this is not necessarily a draft situation, but
this is your DJ Shark again for this year.
I don't even think you should be doing that, though. Last year I said draft DJ Shark in the last round of all your drafts.
So you don't think so for Shenault?
For Laviska Shenault, what I am saying is if he is on the field for 70+% of snaps week 1 and gets 6 targets, that guy should be one of the top waiver wire pickups in the league.
Right, but is that could be, it's very pessimistic, but that could be too late. Because what if you don't have waiver priority?
I mean, if he really like fucks you there, like fine. And if you like Laviska Shenault, like, yeah, draft him. But to me, he's not a guy I'm drafting, but I am keeping a very, very close eye on him. That's kind of where I'm at. Because there's a lot of other like last round type wide receivers that I like ahead of him. Again, Paris Campbell, Michael Pittman Jr., Brashad Perryman is a guy we'll talk about later that I am over the moon for. And I
heard that, and I find it ridiculous.
Yeah, I know you do.
Well, I'm very much on the Crowder side.
Okay, that's
I just think
fine.
he's going to be filthy, but
we'll talk about
we'll
that.
Get to them
in podcast 2.
Tease it, baby.
Yeah. All right. Last team here, and then we are going to sign off and be back for another podcast in the future. The Kansas City Chiefs. The big news is that Clyde Edwards-Helaire, currently going as running back 6, the 7th pick in the first round, has been the feature back in practice and has been praised by the coaches as a quick learner. Running back 6, huh?
I know. It's like, you really, like, would you do that? I would never.
Absolutely fucking not. Derrick Henry is going after that.
I'd rather take Henry, and I don't even like Henry that much this year. Fuck, dude. You did it perfectly on the last podcast. There are way, way too many people that are capable on that team to, vault this guy all the way to he's going after Michael Thomas, the next pick. Like that is, it's too much. It's way too much.
And more points on that. When he got a day off, Darrell Williams was the number 1 back in practice. Like I think a lot of people assumed, including myself, it would be DeAndre Washington, but that just goes to show there's a ton of people in this backfield that can do this job.
I think you and I both know Washington would probably be like a third down back type of deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, to your point, yeah, anyone that comes in is going to do a good job, but there's so many people that could step in and do a good job. So it's one misstep for Clyde, one misassignment, one thing on the injury report, gets COVID, whatever, what have you. There are so many people to step in his place.
Yeah, and I mean, it's entirely possible that his ceiling is, a top 5 running back, but you're drafting him as the 6th running back. So like
he could be nothing, or he could be RB, a top 3 guy. There's a lot of stake in taking him 6th. Like that is so high.
Yeah, it is a lot. And then over at Chiefs practice as well, we have Tyreek Hill. He has a minor hamstring injury. Sammy Watkins has a groin injury. Neither are really serious. But I've been very much on the train of you want to be drafting Tyreek and Sammy Watkins. Am I underrating Mecole Hardman?
No. I mean, I can't get into Mecole Hardman either. I'm having a tough time. Like if I don't get Hill, I'm kind of even pessimistic on playing Watkins at all, especially after last year's boom and then nothing. So yeah, I'm just concerned overall. I think it just runs through Hill and Kelsey and whoever the running back will be.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. Yeah, I mean, for perspective, Hardman's going 9th pick in the 9th round, wide receiver 42. That's 8 wide receivers ahead of Watkins. I just have trouble paying that much for him. If there are injuries, which I feel like this year is going to have a lot of injuries, sure, he gets a great role and he's obviously very talented, but if there are no injuries, then he does not have a role. So that's sort of where I'm at.
Yeah, no, and that makes total sense.
All right, Vin, we have gotten through Kansas City, so we're going to call it a day for this podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed. We will be back with the next 16 teams, and by the time this ends, I am going to be very drunk. So come on through, hang out. We are going to talk about some things. And, for Vinny, I am Walsh. Later, podcast.
This has been Let's Talk Fantasy Football. Thanks for listening.